Gang, gang. Hey, my loves. Hey, everybody. Hey, 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 hey. Let me see now. I am trying to get in. I don't know if he's on yet. 7:20. Okay, he's not on yet. When he is, he will come into the studio and I will know when to get started. Hi, gang, gang. So before we get into everything else, what's good, Copenhagen? What's good, Avira? What's good, Project Execute? What's good, everybody? We are waiting for the co-host for the Mars and Venus show. What's good, Shauna? But while we're waiting for him to come on in, okay, while we're waiting for that, I have a couple of announcements. So I figured, you know what? Let me just go ahead and jump on and we will get started. Okay. This topic today is going to be on the Emperor and the Empress and the frequency. Okay. And what they represent, both astrologically and by the tarot. Okay, so big things, big things. Okay, we also have Venus in her own domicile. She's in Taurus right now, and Aries is in his own domicile. Mars is in his own domicile. He's in Aries. So this prompted us to talk about the Mars and Venus connection and how they kind of move through the chart together. And we thought that would be a very interesting topic. So we're just going to give him a moment to come on, but I figured I would just promote some other things. So first off, soft launch. My book, I have two books that are on my website, loveleesoulempress.com. These are like you can print them out. They're like journal. They're not just journal prompts because it's exercises that you will do that will assist you in cracking yourself open and really helping you guide your manifestation journey and what might be preventing you from bringing in those manifestations. So if you want to check that out, you should go to my website, loveleesoulempress.com. Okay, there's module 1 and 2, which is the first book, and module 3 and 4. Don't do them out of order. They are sequential. Okay, so you definitely want to check that out if you feel like you resonate with the concepts that I explained to you about how to come into your alignment. This is a great way to take you through that journey. Okay, so between both books, it's going to take you a little over a month. What's good, Tawanza? What's good, Shauna? And it will definitely guide you. And there's some very poignant questions in there that help you to scratch the surface of what you might not be seeing in your spiritual involvement, okay, or things that might be necessarily holding you back that you didn't notice. Okay, so I wanted to start with that. I'm not sure what's going on with 720. We're going to give him a little while. Let me check and see if he's on again. Okay, he's not on yet. Hopefully everything is okay on his end. All right, so I'm going to continue with what it was that I wanted to bring to you guys' attention. There he goes. Hello? Listen, just jump in because I'm on live already. Jump in. Sorry, guys, that was him. He's coming in right now, okay? So give him a second. Give him a second. Sorry, I was hoping that it didn't cut us off because I'm trying to answer him. I'm also trying to keep the live going. I didn't want to have you guys waiting. So we're just going to give him another second to come on in. And thank you so much for those of you who are congratulating me on the soft launch of my book. The official big release party will be on my birthday, May 7th. For those of you that have still been sending gifts for my anniversary, what's that, Ethereal? For those of you still sending gifts for my anniversary, 4-year anniversary on YouTube and my birthday, the next batch of gifts that I'm going to open will be on my birthday. We will have a whole live. That is going to be May 7th. Okay, so I'm looking forward to party with you guys. And if you guys have partied with me before, you know that I like to give gifts. So you do not want to miss that live. Okay, so let's talk about that. And we're just letting him get a second. Let me try to invite him now. He should be coming on. I know we have a time difference and it can cause confusion for us. It often causes confusion. So that was him calling, basically telling us he's coming in. But I definitely wanted to go. Thank you guys for the gifts and all the loves. And I have a lot going on. Can you guys hear me good? Is everybody hearing me good? Let's do a sound check before he comes in. Perfect. All right. Because I know last time we had gotten a little bit of feedback. We want to perfect all these things. We have also started our podcast. Okay, so I'm going to share the link of that later. I'll put it up on my YouTube community tab for you guys. Okay, and shortly thereafter, we will be hitting all of the podcast platforms. It's going to take us a little while to get that going. Okay, and also started a podcast for just my spiritually strapped babies, because listen, that is the name of my book, Spiritually Strapped, because if you work with me, that's what the fuck you're going to be, spiritually strapped. All right, so that's what's going on, and I hope you get a chance to check it out. Okay, that's what we do over here. We spiritually strapped gang. All right, so I'm super excited about that, and I have a whole story that I can get into about that, and I will do that on a separate. It's a little breaking up. Okay. You're still setting up too. Okay, so it might be on your end. But basically, I should send a text, right? Basically, give me 1 second, guys. Okay. I just wanted to make sure he knew where the link was, okay? But basically, you know, we've started a wonderful community here. Okay, for those of you that are my Patreon members, right? We're spiritually strapped over there, and those where the master classes are. Okay, so if you're not over there, what are you doing with your life? You know what I'm saying? Because I teach over there spiritual hygiene, how to protect yourself, herbal remedies, juicing. I mean, the list goes on and on. Hey, did you get the email with the link for the YouTube? Okay, just go ahead, take your time. I was just announcing to everybody while we were waiting for you to come in that I soft launched my 2 books were published yesterday, and that was for my anniversary and for my 4-year anniversary, which was May 1st. And May 7th is actually my birthday. So we've been celebrating a hard week every day. That's why I didn't really get a lot of time to do promo this time. And today is also my 17th anniversary with my partner. So May is always crazy. May is crazy in my house. But thank you. So go ahead. The book, it is a printable journal that is like a 5 weeks exercise to take you into getting cracked open with your spiritual journey. And there are 2 more subsequent books that will be coming out thereafter. The name of the series is called Spiritually Strapped, because that's what we are. If you come fucking with me, I'm gonna teach you about how to keep yourself protected. So that's the name of it, and it is on my website, loveleesoulempress.com. Book 1 and 2 is available. Oh, okay, I see you. Let me see if I can add you now. All right. I know last time we had to have headphones for.
Yeah, I got mine in.
Is I have a headphone for the
1, 2.
TikTok, and then I have the mic for the YouTube. Should I?
Okay, 1, 2.
I think you got it there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Now, the only one other problem I may have, but I have another set of headphones charging, is this one is not fully loaded. So when that happens, I will get up and get the other set. But other than that, we're ready to rock. So I was telling them that
I just gotta apologize first. Somewhere I must have got caught in a time warp or something. I said, okay, I got like 30 minutes. I'm gonna take my shower. I'm gonna fix me something to eat real quick. And I look at my time and I'm like, wait a minute. We on Eastern time to start. So I'm already after 1, so I apologize.
No worries. I figured, you know what, I'll get on and I could give the soft launch and send you a text, and everything is cool. So no worries at all. I was just also telling them that Venus has gone into her domicile, and so has Mars. And
Right.
that prompted us to have this discussion. And I don't know if you've caught any of my lives, because mostly this week I didn't do a lot of videos, but I was talking about, and I wanted to mention it in the beginning. I have been covering this week the Pluto retrograde, and how part of the Pluto retrograde is that it's starting in the house of Venus, Taurus, and it's going to end in the house of Libra, Venus. So there is an overarching connection to the Venus energy when it has to do with this retrograde, like undeniable. And one of the messages that Spirit gave was the Alpha and the Omega, meaning starting with love and ending with love. Okay, so we could have a whole conversation about that, because I know that Mars can be quite aggressive, but this Pluto retrograde, it's got the Divine Mother's hand all over it. So I just figured I would preface our conversation with that, because I feel like this Mars Venus connection has a lot to do. I really feel like at the end of this 6 months, we're going to see a shift in the way the divine feminine and divine masculine work together.
So when you said starts in Taurus, you talking about the aspect that Venus, you talking about the Pluto aspect with it moving back from Aquarius to Capricorn in retrograde, right?
Right.
That it's going to square Venus's houses in.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And I feel like it's not an accident that it started in Taurus and it's ending in Venus. And I had said to you some time ago that the Divine Mother, she came through on some disruption shit, because she's not really feeling everything that's going on. And I feel like she's going to use this wrapping up of the Pluto, because it's going to dip back a little bit into Capricorn, but she's using that final piece to say, enough of this shit. Now we're going into Aquarius, and there's the real age of Aquarius kicks off. So, That's what Spirit's message was to me in regards to this Pluto retrograde and why it starts in Taurus and ends in Libra.
Yeah, I think Venus is to further that. Venus is the only planet this year that will complete its synodic cycle with Pluto. And so synodic cycle means sin means same and nodic node means not. So whenever two planets are conjunct each other, they start a new cycle because their energies are bundled up at the time that they are conjunct, and they open up a new cycle of how they're working with each other.
Okay.
So Venus and Pluto were conjunct in February, and where we're at now is they're having their opening square, which means because Venus is a faster moving planet, when it got to Taurus where it's at now, it's in the first square with Pluto. So this is where we're getting some type of impetus to take some type of action. And in, I think, July, they'll be in a opposition. Venus will be in Leo, Pluto in Aquarius. And then they'll form a last quarter square in Scorpio season. Venus will be in Scorpio, Pluto in probably the latter degrees of Capricorn or early Aquarius. And then at the end of the year in December, they're going to meet up again at 0 of Aquarius. So the astrology lines up with that. We got to think about, what is Pluto? Pluto is about depth, nothing superficial, nothing shallow. So the real nature of your relationships, the real nature of your value system, like we're getting down to no fluff. What is at the core? The true nature of people you're dealing with. Money. Are we having to go back and really dig and see things we didn't see around our money? So I think in many ways the astrology lines up with what you're saying.
And I would just add to that, because you know that I don't know all the technical details that you know. Spirit gives me the messages, and I didn't even know that they were going to meet up again in December, right? But I will say this: the Neptune retrograde that's going to start soon is going to overlap. So after the Pluto retrograde finishes on October 11th, right? And then the Neptune retrograde finishes in December. That's going to cover the election. And I just want to sidebar it for all of y'all that watch me and fuck with me and know my predictions. We will not have an answer to the election until after the Neptune retrograde ends. I'm telling you right now, you can come back and tell me about it. Okay? So just so y'all know, this is all heavily linked. There's systems that need to be torn down. And what you were saying about the depth of Pluto and, Venus has to do with, that's why Venus is exalted in Cancer, the moon and the tides and the water. And I told you I was going to use some tarot cards as illustration. This is the world card right here, guys. And you see, this is a naked woman here, right? And basically, this is the world, the mother, the divine mother. It's also a snake eating itself.
Ouroboros.
Okay, so I just want to put it out there that, and I have some cards out here to bring some perspective about this Venus and Mars energy and how they work. But I just wanted to preface, okay, that you see, it's almost like everything is going around her. So I just wanted to start with that. I don't know if you want to lead. What do you want to do?
In my mind, I wanted you, and I was like, I'm gonna get on here early, and that's why I was gonna ask you. Like, I wanted you to basically, I was going to ask you from a tarot perspective, what is the Emperor or the Empress and the Emperor? Or what are the Empress and the Emperor?
Okay, I have to do it. I have laid out the cards because I already had it in my mind. But I need to start a few cards beforehand. Okay.
All
and
right.
I'm going to explain to you why, because I teach my course like this. For those of you that are interested in tarot and want to learn by me, there's a link on my website. But the Empress is card 3 of the Major Arcana. And let me just preface by saying that there's 78 cards in the tarot. There's the Minor Arcana and there's the Major Arcana. Today, we're just talking about the Major Arcana, which is 22 cards. Okay. And some people may not look at it as a story, but it very much is. So I took out 2 decks and I took out 0 through 5 because I feel like this is what we need to concentrate on when we're talking about the Emperor and the Empress. Okay. So I'm going to hold up the 2 first versions. This is the Fool card. This is where the Major Arcana starts. I have the Hoodoo deck out here and This Might Hurt deck. Okay, so I'm going to use the This Might Hurt deck to show an image. Okay, if you see there's a gentleman here who is jumping off a cliff. He has all faith in spirit. He also is naive. He doesn't have all the knowledge that he needs. He's not prepared. He ain't got shit in that sack probably. You know what I'm saying? He ain't think about how long the journey is going to be, what he going to need. You could also look at this as the crowning birth. Right? In the Hoodoo deck, he is leaving a cemetery. Now, I want to explain something to you. Yes. Oh, baby, we can have a whole show about this deck. I promise you. That could be a whole separate one. All right. So he's leaving the cemetery here. You could say he's the Baron. Right? But I want to explain, or the Crossroads, right? But I want to say that it's giving Plutonian energy, death and rebirth. Okay, so that's 0. Okay, or when you talk about the womb and the cycle, you know, you've mentioned that before. That's 0 in the tarot. That's the crowning and what, you know, the concept or the idea. You know what? I'm ready to go out on my own. You may not have a plan. You just got the idea. Spirit gave it to you. Go ahead.
Oh no! I'm somebody following. I'm just shouting them out.
Spirit, you know, is giving you an idea, and you're jumping in faith, but you don't really have a plan yet. Now, the Fool card is Aries. Okay. Now, it's very coincidental, but this is the Magician. He's number 1 in the tarot. If you see him in, let me do it this way, in the This Might Hurt deck, he has 4 tools now. He's got a little older. He's a teenager, right? He's starting to learn a little bit, right? He's got a coin, he's got a cup, he's got a wand, and he's got a sword. He's learned a little bit in his journey. That was kind of stupid of me to leave out with nothing, right? I need some things along the way. I've picked up some things. If you see him in the Hoodoo deck, he also is displaying the tools. Okay. Now, this deck has so much layers. And like I said, I could do a whole show about this deck. But if you notice, you know, there's like a crow in the cut, and there's some leaves there. He's learning about the tools on his journey and what he can use them for. And he's starting to get this knowledge from Spirit, right? Because Spirit's the ultimate teacher. Okay. So then we go to card 2, which is the High Priestess. Okay. So the High Priestess, she has the books of knowledge that has been given to her by Spirit. If you see, the moon is there. Okay, so we're already talking about Cancer. All right, we're also talking about Pisces, 2 places where Venus is exalted, right? And this knowledge is coming through And for those of yous who are into spirit work and ritual work, and you know about the Iyami, shout out to the Iyami and the Divine Mothers, they don't like when you speak out loud. They like telepathic communication. Okay? So those of us who are who have been initiated to them, we speak to them telepathically, and they speak to us telepathically. It is the mark of the priestess. Okay? Now, when you see her, and I have a quick story I'm going to give about this. When you see her in this deck, and the meaning of this deck is very different. This is Miss Ida. She is a 7-year-old African-American girl who was guided by her spirits to go into her attic, and she is self-initiated. Now, what bugged me out was that in the book, her birthday is my birthday.
Mm.
And there's a dress that I wore to my mother's wedding. It looks just like that. Right? So I felt very much connected to this deck instantly. Okay, and if you see, there's a crescent moon behind her. There's all the symbolisms of the self-initiation, meaning that there's a part of the priestess that has to be birthed, or that comes through in your birth. You don't choose it, it chooses you. Okay, so there's that. Now we're going to get to, because I'm doing shorter versions so we don't lose too much time. But now we're going to get to the Empress, because the Empress is number 3. And it's no coincidence that it is number 3, because number 3 is Spirit's number. It's also Elegba's number. Because the Empress, or Venus, or Oshun, walks with Elegba. Okay? This is the, first of all, Eshu is her son for Oshun. Okay, so they cannot be separated. They cannot be separated. Okay, this is her in her youth, right? You could say that she's, and I want to say, like, when you see the high priestess here, she looks young, right? Let's say maiden, mother. Now she's of birthing age. She can take a spouse, right? But in the tarot deck, look how she looks in the hoodoo deck. She is big, the big queen, Empress, right? So she would be the chief. In Spanish, we in Boricuan or Taíno culture, right? It's cacique, it's the chief, which in our culture, you could be the chief, both male and female. We had chiefs. Okay, so and also in Taíno culture, before the that's the tribe of Puerto Rico, before they came with the slave ships. In our culture, the feminine chose the husband, and she would give him something to drink. They would all walk around naked, and she would offer him a beverage. And if he took the beverage, then he said he wanted to be married, and then they would cover themselves. So in our culture, it's different, because those that really know about the Taíno culture, it was the power of the feminine to make the choice as to who she thought was suitable to be a mate. Okay, but I find it very intriguing that in the hoodoo deck, they show her to be like a chief priestess. Okay, so I'll preface that, and then you can ask me questions about that. But here comes the Emperor. Okay, so here he's sitting on a throne, right? He's sitting on a throne. And prior to that, when he left the cemetery, or when he jumped off the cliff, he was in his naivete. And when he became the magician, right, he learned that he needed tools to go into battle, right? Or to deal with situations. Now, he may have had to have learned that knowledge. Let's say that he didn't know it ahead of time. He learned these tools. Like a general doesn't know he's going to win the battle. He does things and then he figures out, oh yeah, that worked. I'll use that again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The high priestess, male or female, is getting information from spirit. It's a partnership. So you have to understand, you're coming in here, you ain't got no prior knowledge of what you're supposed to do, right? The magician is accumulating tools. He gets cracked open, male or female, right? He's recognizing that he's been marked from birth. You see the trend, okay? Then the Empress, which is the creative thing, right? The ability to birth something. Also, something before I finish with the Emperor. If you notice, the Empress has no fucking tools with her. Why? Because she manifests with the frequency of love. That's what makes her so powerful. She is more powerful than the magician. She does not need the tools. She can think about it. She can feel it like manifestation, and the flowers will bloom. She does not need the tools. Okay? So now when you get to the Emperor, what he has learned in his journeys is not only how to conquer, but why. Right? Why? Right? You ever see young men, they buy nice cars, they buy them because they want the Empress's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now he's trying to get an empire, not to prove to his boys that he's powerful, but so that he can be worthy of the Empress. Okay? And if you look at him in the hoodoo deck, he is also becoming chief. Okay, so she finishes, and in this deck, if you look, he has an ankh in his hand.
Mm.
Okay, so he's recognizing, in essence, that the quality of his Empress has very much to do with how his empire will be. Because she whispers in his ear. Okay, listen, all feminines and masculine and feminine, because we're talking about frequency, right? But I'm saying a man in his feminine frequency, everybody's born with a little bit of high priestess in them. Okay, but the Empress is the evolution of the high priestess. In other words, she knows how to use her knowledge with love. We could talk about left hand and right hand work. That's a whole other conversation. But the Empress learns the balance of that power. So we could say that the high priestess, every Empress is a high priestess, but not all high priestesses are an Empress, if you follow what I'm saying. Okay? So he's understanding that in some way, the quality of his Empress is the quality of his empire. That is why in chess, the most valuable piece on the board is the queen. Because she can move in areas that he cannot. Okay? And then I'll just close by one last card. It is not a coincidence that the fifth card is the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is considered the marriage card. But it is also what is all is good, the right and proper way to stay within the boundaries of what is correct. But it's also speaking of the marriage that happens between the emperor and the empress. Number 3 and number 4. The empress is number 3 and the emperor is number 4. And it's no mistake that the emperor is number 4 because he is representing the 4 pillars, the foundation of a builder. So he's the master builder, but she's the master manifester. And there ain't shit that can be said about that. In other words, you need her because she's the sweet waters. And there's an ATR, African traditional religion, there's a story that speaks about how all the masculine deities, they had been told by Olodumare particular jobs to go down and create the world. And she had a job, and they said, well, we don't need her, the masculines. We don't need her. She's unimportant. She's a baby. So she said, okay, got you. I'm out. So they couldn't build shit. Nothing would grow. There was no water. They couldn't do anything without her. So they go back to Oludumare and they're saying, why did you give us this mission? We can't do anything. So Oludumare turns and says, wait a minute. There's somebody missing here. Where's Oshun? And they're like, oh, we didn't need her. We sent her away. And he says, oh, no, 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 no. She's the sweet waters of life, and you can't do anything without her. Go and apologize and bring her. So they all had to go to Oshun and beg for forgiveness because they did not realize that without the frequency of love or her sweet waters, nothing could be accomplished. And so that's why the Empress is the big mama of the tarot. And she is what makes everything move. And the last thing I'll say about the hoodoo deck is that this is the sun and the moon. In most tarot decks, you will see the sun to be the masculine because that's what we believe in Western astrology. And the moon is the feminine. But if you see in hoodoo, it's Big Mama that's the sun. And it is the Pa that is the moon. Why? Big Mama is what everybody revolves around. Okay? When is a man at his most dangerous? When he's emotional. In some ways, the masculine is more led by his emotions when he's triggered than the feminine is. And that's what the hoodoo deck is kind of getting at. So I just wanted to put that out there. I feel like this is a perfect foundation to lead the conversation.
All right. So that's a lot of heavy stuff. Well, I don't know if what I want to do is look at some, because one of the things I do is deal with language. And when you trace the origin of any word, any language, you are actually dealing with the feminine nature of it, because you're dealing.
One thing, you have somebody talking to you in the comments. They want to know if they can link the YouTube to your page. They wanted your permission. Copenhagen writes, question to 720 Astrology. Am I allowed to link your website to draw attention to these videos?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, when you deal with the origin of anything, you're dealing with its mother. And so I want to bring that into the conversation, because when you deal with the Empress, the Emperor, etymologically, they are the same because they come from the same root. And they come from the same root as the word empire. And that's where I want to hang my hat. The empire. And that word, when you go back to its family, it means venturing, testing the way. And what's interesting is that you talk about the fifth card, the Hierophant, representing the way. And when you go and look at Sufi lore, the Sufi is said to be on his or her way. That's called the path. You have the Tao, which is referred to as the way, the Tao or Tao De Ching, the way. What is this mystical way? And there's something, this way seems to coincide with this recognition that the Hierophant would represent, where Big Mama has seen the whole image. The Emperor then is carrying out the vision, and then the merger of those two produces this. I always think of the Hierophant as, we know we're not talking religion, but it is the spiritual realization of sorts. So I want to look at this word venturing. And I want to break that down because when you trace venture, it means to come and to go. If I can come and go as I please, then it means freedom. And what I ultimately see as, especially on the very practical nature of the ability of a feminine embodiment to be on the path of becoming the Empress, and a masculine embodiment to be on the path of becoming the Emperor, what sits above them and helps both drive them along their path is a realization that we're building a motherfucking empire. And that empire represents freedom. Because when we break down the word venture, come and go, the root is vent, and vent means wind. And wind has no limitation. It comes and goes as it pleases. And you know, when you talked about the what was the high priestess, right? What was the card before the Empress?
The magician, and then
No,
the high priestess.
the high priestess.
Yes.
Now that really hits home with me because she was sitting in a crescent moon, and she was holding some books, right?
Yes, she was.
Okay. In 2018, I went home to visit my mother, and I had a dream. And this woman comes. I'm in a college, one of those huge amphitheater style classrooms at a university where it's like the stadium seats. And this Moabitess woman, which we would say black, Moabitess, she calls me down. She has on this beautiful ruffled blouse, and she's got these bangles on. She's just bangle earrings and nice gold bracelets. And she has this thick book, and she opens up the book and she puts her finger and points to it. I don't know what she's pointing to, but in the dream, I knew what it was. And it was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Now, me and my mother went to a Goodwill, and you can't see it up here, but I found a statue that looked like this woman in Goodwill.
Okay.
So I got it up on my bookshelves or makeshift altars. Okay. The reason I call my business 720 Astrology is because one breast is 360 degrees and the other breast is 360 degrees. You put those together, it's 720 degrees, complete knowledge.
Okay.
And from your mother, you receive knowledge through her breasts because she feeds the baby. And then you receive that knowledge in your stomach. Now, my moon is in Cancer. And so, but I never knew what you just said about the high priestess. And when you combine that and the dream I had, it's just, and I know, and this may be kind of off, but it just triggered, this stuff triggered in my mind.
I'm about to trigger you more because
okay.
I'm about to trigger you more, okay? Because in hoodoo, okay, the knowledge that's passed down was always supposed to be in a book. And these are family books that we put together. And what is the book called? It's a grimoire. So what she was pointing to was your family grimoire. And she was telling you that she was going to awaken the knowledge in the family grimoire. Now, I'm going to take it a step further because you're right when you said the 360 and the breast and the full knowledge and the 720. But I'm going to give it to you in a different way that Spirit has given it to me. The mitochondrial DNA that flows from mother to mother or mother to daughter and goes down the line, that is the Akashic record. Okay? And so you have to be ready to open the book, per se, or activate the Nile River, which is the womb that is in all of us. Okay, so a lot of people don't recognize, like they see the period or the menstruation, but that is really the Nile River. And they say, you know, it turns to blood. Listen, I can go into like a whole thing. Okay, but that is the knowledge of time and the Akashic records. I just wanted to give you that part because the dream part and the book, that's the grimoire. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that's heavy. Um, and to your assessment of the role reversal of the sun being associated with feminine, well, that's not far-fetched because in certain cultures, the woman wears the gold and the man wears the silver. And the silver coincides with the moon and gold coincides with the sun. This necklace I wear has on it what we've been told is the Star of David. But this is an ancient symbol, in one regard referred to as the hex alpha. It has 6 isosceles triangles on it, which forms 360 degrees, but it has comprised of 2 main triangles. Now, if you notice the triangle pointing up, we would associate with the masculine. But if you really look at it, we could say it is, if you go and look at those old pictures of Venus of Willendorf, when the primal ancient way of giving birth is the woman squats and the baby's head comes down out of the womb pointing down. So this upper triangle can actually be considered the feminine, and its base is her leg spread, giving birth to the masculine, which his head is pointing down. Now, I'm going to tell you what we're talking about here. I want y'all to understand this is cloth talk because we're actually giving you masonry. And when we talk about ancient culture, this is why you don't have to go and join a lodge because you were born on the square. You were born a Mason. And when you look at the Masonic symbol and it has the compass, which would be the top of this triangle, well, what do you form with a compass? A circle. And then at the bottom of it, it has a square. And what do you form with that? 4 right angles. Both of them add up to 360 degrees. But the feminine sees that completion in a different manner than the masculine. He sees it in hard angles. She sees the whole picture first, which is why I would associate the Empress as the seed of manifestation, because the feminine must see the whole circular picture first. And then the emperor then goes out and carries out the directive with angles, direction, hard, fixed, because that's the way the masculine side is more geared to function. Although we both have the opposite in us. You understand? So I'm gonna stop there, but I wanted that as an opening volley.
I want to continue. I want to continue with that concept because when you're talking about the emperor and his hard squares, and that's the masonry part. So he's the mason. That's why he's number 4 in the tarot, because he represents the 4 pillars of what can be built with what the magician picked up along the way, those tools, and he learned how to use them by taking action. He didn't know when he took the action. Okay, remember when he left out, he didn't know shit. Okay, so he's learning as he goes. By the time he's the emperor, he has some wisdom, and then also he's already met the empress who was whispered in his ear. Now, when you were talking about the Hierophant, I wanted to add to that. If you look in this deck, you see that there's 2 pillars behind.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to know that this doesn't only mean the marriage. He's also the judge. He is the first version of the Justice card. A lot of people don't know that this represents the law, because back then religion was law. This was the see all and all. Okay, so there is a thing, and you can also take those columns to be the masculine and the feminine standing behind him. Now, when you were talking about the triangle and it pointing up, what was removed from the Trinity? The power of the feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. What they didn't want to name is that Holy Spirit is the Divine Mother.
Yeah.
Okay, she is the inequatable, the part that you can't quantify, the dark matter, the supernova, right? So she is the spark. She also gives the spark of life. Okay, so there's this energy of, like, intrinsically, of this knowledge that she holds, although she may not necessarily know that she holds it. She learns that she holds this by people trying to take from her. Because the Empress doesn't really know that she's all powerful. She just knows that she loves extremely hard and that things flourish around her. It is when she starts to turn to the crone that people have taken from her and things like that, where she starts to get the wisdom to understand, oh, so it's not just that I make shit grow, but when I turn my back, night falls and that shit dies. If I remove my energy, it all goes to shit. So she starts learning, per se, the power of love. Okay? Or she starts learning, put it in another way, when you look at the mother, right? She has to sometimes castigate her children, but she's doing it out of love, although they may not understand that at the time, because like you said, she has this overall vision, right? So it can seem harsh, right? Or another way of looking at it is like in the wild, right? If let's say a wolf has a litter, right? And one of them is sick, she will either eat that young or she will separate it and suffocate it so that the others do not catch whatever. She doesn't know if it's contagious or not. She just knows there's something wrong with him. She doesn't want to feel so sorry for the one that is let's say maimed or something, that she's gonna have to protect it and leave the others weak. So she makes a decision that is what is for the greatest good
Of the empire.
Of the empire. Okay, so yeah, that's why sometimes, when they say the woman scorned or whatever, it's not so much scorned, it's that she will make decisions, okay, long-term decisions that may not make sense at first, okay, but she's seeing it from another light, what needs to be done.
Relationship. How can we provide practical ways for this to play out? Because this is my idea of relationship, that the nature of your being as emperor will determine the nature of empress that you will align with, or vice versa. And if you're not even on that path, then don't expect that an empress is going to be here waiting and you are not on the path of realizing. Something I wanted to ask you, I just thought about too, and can you talk about what you said to me that day about what is the Empress? She's the
I'm
king.
getting it. I'm on it.
Okay.
So go ahead, keep talking, and I have a couple cards in this deck that's gonna further our conversation. But go ahead.
Okay, that you broke down. She is the exaltation of each suit, and
And so is he. And so is
and
he.
so is
When it
he.
comes to, okay.
Okay. And is does it have to be that these people they've arrived in this state of or is it more so that they're on the quality of your journey towards that will dictate your ability to align with someone else who's at that, or maybe, at least similar state of acquiring that overall state of being emperor or empress?
I want to take out the masculines too, because it's going to answer your question. So give me 1 second so that I can
Okay.
have it all set up, because I don't want to have to like stop again to do it and make everybody wait. Let's put that over there. I'm trying to get them all together. I should have took out this deck too, but I didn't want to like take over the whole thing with the tarot. We're just looking for one more. Where's the King of Swords? There he is. All right. So to answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because I was saying to you that the Empress is born, or the High Priestess, she has that, she's marked for it, right? But she has to become the Empress, right? And so you see here in this deck, which is the Edgar Allan Poe deck, she is the Empress and she has a mini-me. That is talking about the mitochondrial DNA that is passed down. Okay. So, right, just want to preface that. So this is the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. The Queen of Pentacles is considered to be the quintessential wife, right? What I always say is, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man, right? She is the entrepreneurial spirit. She runs the home smooth as hell, and she makes her own bread. Okay? Here is the Queen of Wands. She's young, hot. Okay? She knows about a little bit of spell work. She magnetizes. Okay? She attracts a lot of suitors. Here's the Queen of Cups. She's the quintessential mom. She raises them kids and loves on them, and she's doting and she's making oatmeal cookies and shit when they get home from school. Okay? And you got the Queen of Swords here. She gonna teach you some hard lessons. She gonna tell you what's right and wrong. She ain't gonna, blow smoke up your ass. Okay? This is the 4 archetypes. Okay? The Empress is all of these. This is why I'm going to say this in a way. If a young man who is not prepared, like you said, don't expect the Empress if you're not prepared to be the Emperor, right? Because the quality of your Empress depends on the skills that you possess. So let's say he runs into her and he's 22 and he don't know shit. And he's just souped up because he's like, look at all the shit growing around me. I'm walking with this chick. She's bad as hell. And shit is just clicking for me. Everything's great. He don't recognize that there's a force field that has been created around him that is supportive of the empire or the venture that they're going to build together. And he takes it for granted in his youth, right? If he loses that Empress in his journey, he probably ain't, right? Because he gonna be ruined, right? Because every woman he meets from there forward, he's gonna be like, but she don't got the Queen of Pentacles. She might be the Queen of Wands, but she ain't the Queen of Pentacles. Or she might be the Queen of Cups, but she ain't that.
That's real shit.
That's real spit. Okay, now I'm gonna reverse it to give you the Emperor. Look at the Emperor. Okay, he's already have created some shit in his life. Now, who is he? He is the King of Pentacles. He has built an empire. He already has some a wife. Okay, he's got the Queen of Pentacles at home. All right, they make bank together. All right, you see that castle he got? Okay, you got the King of Cups. Okay, he's the quintessential father. He might chill too much with his friends and getting his emotions, and he might keep them close to his vest a little bit because he learned about hurt and heartache, so he pours into his children, right? He's the King of Wands also is here, okay? The King of Wands, he takes action, but His problem is that he doesn't know how to, what he does is he would rather ask for forgiveness than permission. So his ego stands in his way. Okay, he takes a lot of action, but he needs to learn to defer to the Empress because she will give him the whisper, right? That would make him a better builder. Action without forethought ain't shit, right? And then here is the King of Swords. He's very intelligent. He sees 5 and 6 steps ahead. So here it is. This is the amalgamation of the Emperor. Same thing goes for the feminine. Okay, she's looking for that man that has, or, because I'm going to preface that in a second, she's looking for the person who gives her those 4 qualities. Mm-hmm. And if she can't find that, she's going to continue to look for that. Now, I want to say one thing in regards to this, because we're talking about frequencies. Okay, so there's going to be times it's not about your sexual orientation or the vessel that you're in, because for the Emperor to, whether he's man or a woman, whatever role he's assigned himself to, right? Talking about being inclusive to the LGBTQ, right? And how you said, I think in our first meeting, that the masculine and the feminine is also referring to the right side and the left side of the brain. Right? So he cannot become the Emperor if he does not know how to open himself up to his Empress side. It will not happen, because that is the creation part. Okay, and the same thing goes for her. She wouldn't even have the confidence to whisper in his ear if she didn't think she was strong enough to have confidence in the idea or the thought. So we are, in essence, both masculine and feminine. And the last thing I'll say about that is that the indigenous actually had 5 sexual orientations, not just 1 and 2. And one of them was called two-spirited, meaning an individual that came with both, in touch with both sides. So I feel like religion has moved us away from understanding the real roles, whether you're a man or a woman, and how to identify the frequency that you are in.
I wanted to build on that. This is a book I got, I don't know, probably 13, 14 years ago. A lot of people may know it. It's The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. Okay. And I just want to, if y'all will bear with me, I want to read a few things. And I want to preface this by saying that, of course, he studied African, what we would call African continent, nations, because it's a multitude of nations, but he was trying to find commonalities amongst these nations. All right. And I want to read something in a section he's got called Early Education. And if you bear with me, I'm going to bring this all home real quick. I got about 3 paragraphs, but I'm going to read fast.
Go ahead.
The children's set covered the years of game and play. Around the ages of 6 and 7, however, general training and some little jobs began to be mingled with play. Primary education included storytelling, mental arithmetic, community songs and dances, learning the names of various birds and animals, the identification of poisonous snakes, local plants and trees, and how to run and climb swiftly when pursued by dangerous animals. Child training also included knowing and associating with members of one's age group as brothers and sisters, and to regard them as brothers and sisters until death and beyond. Little chores around the house became routine, such as gathering sticks of wood for fuel, bringing water, tending the cattle, feeding the chickens, or if a girl looking after baby or younger ones, imitating mother at cooking and trying to learn how to sew and knit. We skip down. He says, The youth's entire future depended upon their performance at this age level. He or she was marked for success or failure in his second age set that began at age 13. Okay, this is where we start differentiating. The boy was now required to learn his extended family history and that of his society, the geography of the region, names of neighboring states, and the nature of the relations with them, the handling of weapons, hunting as a skilled art, rapid calculation, clearing the bush for planting, the nature of soils and which kinds grew that what best, military tactics, care and breeding of cattle, the division of labor between males and females, bartering tactics, rules of good manners at home and abroad. Okay, quickly, the girls' age group differed from those of the boys. Introduction to womanhood roles, for example, was earlier. And so I got a book here. This book I got from my daddy, Sexuality and Spirituality. It says that the same basic ethos that the feminine mind matures faster than the masculine, which is not, it's not no, it's a well-known psychological phenomenon. So this was recognized way back. They had the same intellectual training as the boys: history, geography, rapid calculation, poetry, music, and dance. The training in childcare, housekeeping, gardening, cooking, marketing. Housekeeping, in many societies, this training by older women away from the community included the art of exciting sexual intercourse, position variations, cleanliness in the relationship, and in short, the do's and don'ts in intimate relations. Now, what's my point? And it's more of a, what's my point is that this, according to that amalgamation of cultures, was training for becoming an empress and an emperor. And so what we have to do, and this to me is an individual thing, because we live in an amalgam right now where I'm on a process right now of going back, because I learned they change our name every 40, 50 years. Colored, Negro, Black African, African American. And so when you go back, you're trying to find who am I really? So in other words, then culture, which means behavior, has been stripped away. So each family unit has to develop, if it does not have some long lineage of this cultural tradition, the parents who become aware enough and parents who are moving in their state of becoming empress and emperor, part of it is, how do you develop a culture in your own home to produce emperors and empresses? And I'll stop
So
that.
it's funny that you say that, because I have always been, I had my first son when I was 18. And something that I always say, I have two sons, is that I don't raise boys, I raise men. And that was something that I set out to do from when I first had my first son. Okay. And I went into it knowing that that was the overall and arching goal. Now, what I would like to say about the continent of Africa in regards to what you were reading about the tutorials that we were supposed to be given in the ATRs, right? If we were born back then and we were part of a tribe that followed the ATRs, what would have happened initially? Within 2 days of being born, they would have already had a ceremony. And this would have drawn out what your sign was, or your odu, and what you were supposed to be in this lifetime. And this was a spiritual manual that was given to your parents so that they would know how to rear a specific child, male or female, what their purpose was in this divine, right? So when we were brought here, we were removed. We were removed from that tradition. So this is why we spend so much time. Thank you guys for sharing the live. This is why we have been so, it takes us so long to be like centered back on our journey, because we have lost the tradition of the Odu that would have been brought down when we were first born. So this and listen, I am in the ATRs, and I have a lot of my counterparts, right? They're crowned Ianifas in Ifa, and one of them is a nurse, right? And she says to me, and my daughter's a therapist, okay? They both confirm that when they see clients, they can tell even from early on that a lot of the kids that are on medication or that are having behavioral problems, they're not having behavioral problems, they're having spiritual problems because that Odu was not taken. And what they really need is spiritual ceremony and guidance. But that has been stripped away from the culture. And so and I openly talk about it. My youngest son that I adopted, he had many difficulties, and I made a pact. I told Oshun, help me to help him, and I will do everything I can so that by the time he's 5, he's cured. And he was. So and that was through the ATRs. So that's what the missing equation. I just wanted to confirm what you were saying. That is the missing equation, that we have lost the spiritual connection. And I'm not talking about the religious connection, because I feel like somehow that is the undoing, because it makes us believe that there's something outside of ourselves that we're looking for, and it's really within.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, lining up with moving into the age of Aquarius that we are already in, and we're continually to transition into, if you have enough wherewithal to know that there are deficiencies on multiple levels in how things have progressed, we have the challenge and the job of planting new seeds. And you may not be able to see the tree that grows from it, at least not in this lifetime. But I think the magic of knowledge and when you talk about manifestation, is that what's in your blood is an encyclopedia. And when you have a certain level of awakening and you think you're learning something new, you're really recovering something old. And when you move under that impetus, you then have the ability to resurrect certain energies. We always learn about the best magic or spell is the one you create, because it's coming from, it's not someone else's, it's your baby, and I think we got that opportunity right now. And I want to say something about, to make it very practical for people, because I don't want people to feel like, well, I feel intimidated. I want to just, from a rudimentary astrological perspective, I want to just talk about 3 planets: your Venus, your Moon, and your Mercury. Venus, what do I value? What do I love? And how do I attract based on that? But first and foremost, what do I value? And how much do I value myself? What's the nature of my value of myself? That's Venus. The Moon, what do I need? What do I need to be fed? And as a result, how do I feed others? And Mercury, how do I communicate? Am I able to communicate Venus and the moon's needs and positions and their nature? Am I able to communicate it? And how do I hear it? And I think what these do, because all of us got this in our chart, and the ability to sit with these, because in some charts, there are going to be conflicts between these three. And when you talk about the 4 phases where we deal with the pentacles, the wands, the swords, and the cups, and how the maturity of both of those is what is encompassed in the Empress or the Emperor, that a lot of this is about knowledge of self, and the maturity that comes along with understanding, what do I need? Damn, do I value myself? How am I communicating? I think it has a big role when we deal with, on a practical level, of these energies meeting and their ability to form an empire.
Very much so. I'm looking for a card that's going to tie in what you're saying. And yeah. So I would like to say that I agree with you in the sense that the best rituals you don't find in a book, you create them, right? But I will say that it's not so much that you create them. We might feel as if we are creating them. Where is it? Did I pass it? I must have passed it talking. But really what's happening is the Hermit, which the Hermit is ruled by Mercury. The Hermit in the card, I wish I could find it right quick. The individual is walking with a lantern. And that lantern is spirit. So the communication that is happening is that we are being, so when you said you might not get to see what you've created. Where is this card? Okay. Here he doesn't have a thing. He's by himself, but he's holding something in his hand. And normally on the most cards, it is a lantern. Okay. Mm-hmm. So basically, he's holding this lantern and he's being led by the lantern, is what he uses to go down his path, a solo journey of self-exploration. Okay. But it's the Mercury, or the unlocking of the DNA, because energy does not die. It transforms. So, and I was talking to Rose, who is in the YouTube chat, right? But many of us, we come to a point in our spirituality where we don't have an actual mentor or teacher. But what you don't recognize is that your ancestors are giving you the training, and they will lead you to the people that you need to fulfill that journey and follow the lantern. Okay, because the lantern is spirit. And that, like I said to you guys, the Akashic records is the mitochondrial DNA and the unlocking that we do, because we come to this world with a soul contract that we forget the minute that we come through the Fool. We have no idea, right? And the whole journey is about remembering, right? So that you can do that solo journey as the Hermit to achieve all of those things. So I just wanted to preface it, because it's not that we are, yes, it is ours, but it's in our line. So although you might think you created it, it's probably your grandmother that gave you the thing, and she's telling you, put this with that and this. And that's how, right? That is your grimoire that comes in your blood.
Right. That's what I meant. What I meant was just that, you get these you get these books on Goetia, and you get these books on the lesser key, and they tell you do this, do that, do that, do that. Well, that's what I meant. That from your internal universe, which can be billions of ancestors living in your blood who are so. Yeah, I agree with that. Um I forgot to bring, I wanted to bring a prop, but go ahead with where you were gonna go next.
So I would say, okay, so my grandfather was a World War II vet, okay, and his unit was the equivalent of the Tuskegee, but in Latino, which is the Borinqueneers, okay. So he was very Catholic, okay, and he was light skinned, and his family was more wealthy, okay, but he married an indigenous woman, my grandmother, okay, and her parents were Mesa Blanca. They were spiritists. They were emperor and empress married, okay, and they worked. You basically, Mesa Blanca is hoodoo. It's the Spanish version or the Puerto Rican version, okay? So they were basically hoodoo, but it's called Mesa Blanca. And so when my grandfather found out that he had married the daughter of hoodoo priests and priestesses, he was not pleased, and he was like, I forbid this shit, right? So he forbid it, and his wife had to cut ties at a certain point, okay, because he was very religious. And my mother and her 3 siblings, they were not taught, okay, but my aunt, she had the thing in her natural. She just wasn't as strong as me, but she had the thing natural. So when I was born, she knew that I was the one that held the key. So when I was 13, she went and bought me a tarot deck. And that's how this shit started. And my grandparents, okay, my grandmother was the tarot person, but she used to read, and I can do it too. She used to read with a cup of water and a candle, no cards, right? And my great grandfather could do that too, but he was a herbal. They both knew a lot about herbs. They've been training me ever since. So they were my first teachers, and to this day, they're still my teachers. Okay, so I frequently am in communication with them when I have a doubt about something. So know that your lineage is teaching you. You may not know where the knowledge has come from. I'm lucky enough to be able to trace it back to who it was. Not all of us can do that, but it's real, and you are being trained.
Yeah, I think that goes back to our other conversation about the 12th house, about how those messages can come in and the guidance may come in. So I don't know where you want to take it next as far as the conversation, but I always want to make sure that people have. I want to say this. I'm getting on my soapbox for a minute. They got all this stuff going on with these rappers, and they keep going at each other. And for one, we don't even know if they even real. That might be AI doing this shit, but it's very interesting that this keeps building and building and building, and it is a distraction because something is bubbling around the corner. And I think if there ever was a time that a conversation like this needs to be had and needs to be digested on a very practical level, because I think where we're getting to a point where there's nothing left but your magic. Now, however that applies to someone, You know, go ahead. You had a
So I just want to preface one thing about the beef between the rappers. Okay. And, you know, let's say it was real, right? Let's go with that, right? It's real. Kendrick Lamar is mopping the floor, you know, with Drake left and right, just giving him a crazy ass whooping, right? I looked at Kendrick Lamar's chart this morning. Okay. So he has a sun in Gemini,
right.
right? He has a sun in Gemini, and I believe his Mercury is in Cancer and his Venus is in Gemini, right? Basically, it was like kind of opposite, but what it is that he's the feminine in the equation. Okay, so he's using the underworld or the arsenal, like he was prepared long before, like the high priestess, right? He was prepared long before. He had 3, 4, 5 tracks put up, right? So that when Drake responded in his ego, that he would be like, you didn't see this coming because I'm the high priestess. Ping, 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 right? He's very creative, and he's talking about the Renaissance, and he's using the feminine frequency, even though he's tearing his ass up like the emperor, right? So it's very opposite back to the which is really the sun and which is really the moon. And that's the energy that I'm getting with Kendrick, that he is very much in the flow is coming from his feminine side, but he's using it, right? He doesn't have a Venus in Aries like me, but it was in a more masculine sign, right? Or the duality, right? It was in Gemini, so it's both versions, right? He's using it as a weapon, like a masculine weapon, but it's really his feminine frequency that is doing this.
Okay, well, let's run with that. Then I'm gonna throw another layer in here. Then, what the ability to show power in this realm is to be able to create your own version of a battle between masculine and feminine, or duality. Everything we get is broken down to either or. Target or Walmart. You got back in the day you had XM or Sirius. You got you in any whatever city you in, it normally will come down to two main grocery stores. You had Office Depot or Office Max. You know, so I'm always, you even look at sports. Sports is always got to come down to two teams. But who's behind the show? Who's running the puppet string? Because then you have the ability to create the reality out of the titans dueling, or the gods or goddesses at war. So I think everybody needs to go and look at, especially who just produced this last track for Kendrick Lamar, and trace his origin. His name is The Alchemist. Trace his origin. Okay. Go and trace the origin of Drake. What does he really come from? And you'll see who's the puppeteer in the whole world, who runs the media, who is one of the major players on the world stage as far as some type of conflict. Who can you not mention? Who runs every platform? Who controls all, to the great degree, the lobbying that goes on in politics? And in most major things, you will see the hands of this player. Because, and who runs music industry, period. Hollywood,
yes,
period. Sports, period. And they always get to play the position of having the gods go at war with each other. And then they get to sit back and reap whatever outcome comes out of it. They get to feed on the energy. They feed on our energy because it pulls us in. and they get to run another counterplay that we ain't seeing, and they get to feed on the results of the conflict that they create. Now I know we're going off into another, you know.
So when you first started discussing that and you were talking about the masculine and the feminine, and it just reminded me of the sun and the moon. I'm gonna separate the two things for a second, the sun and the moon, right? And whether you want to ascribe it as masculine and feminine or feminine and masculine, because we just talked about how it could be flipped, right? In the center is the vessel. And I did a whole master read about how there's basically the core of the earth has a sun or molten center, right? It also has an ocean, but you know, there's a whole other thing. We could talk about that, right? So it has this molten core, right? And then you have the sun in the sky, right? And then we have the solar plexus, right? And we are in between, like levitating, right? And when we come into alignment with our masculine and feminine, the solar plexus gets lit up, and that's how we ascend to what we're really supposed to be doing. Okay. Now, when you look at the forces and who's behind, you know, and this is why I have, you know, and I was trying to allude to that before in our personal conversation, but I think that you kind of like misunderstood what I was saying, right? But the what you're alluding to as to who has the control, okay? They are the same people who wrote out the divine feminine.
They hate the divine feminine.
Okay, so and because you know, the truth is, you know, she represents the dark matter or what is not seen, or you could say the Black Madonna. We could get into a whole other thing, right? But they hate her, like you said, right? So they've tried to remove that. So when I say the patriarchy is going to fall, I don't mean that men are going to fall. I mean the patriarchy, the system that has been created to cage the vessel that holds the divine feminine and divine masculine. That's the system that has to fall. That is why you're seeing all that you are seeing in every realm.
I agree.
That's my take on that. So basically the way that they have pictured the masculine and the feminine, the way that they have structured the system, that is what must fall. How we get fucked up in it is because we keep assigning roles. We keep assigning roles as to what we believe is masculine. But like I said, the indigenous had 5 different listings for it, right? So we're wasting our time arguing about what the roles look like, okay? Right? And part of what is being used to keep the Black Madonna or the feminine down is to make certain segments of the society that have not reached the emperor, who have not learned how to be all 4, right? They have not learned how to be all 4 of these qualities, right? So they get triggered when they hear shit about how the feminine is the divine mother. They get triggered because they don't understand that they hold an equal importance. But the reason why they get triggered is because they might not have that one, or they might not have that one. If they had all of the 4 parts, the conversation wouldn't even fucking bother them, because they understand that they come from her, and in them is the DNA and the grimoire. Doesn't matter if they're male or female. It's the problem comes from them not understanding that that same system that holds her back is crushing them. But they can't see it because that same group has made it in a way where they can't listen. I'll just say that. Okay, if they understood what it would mean to unlock their feminine, they'd be online first. Okay, they would be online first. What do you mean? I can get the Empress that I want. I can become the emperor. I can have the empire. I can make the venture. But they're missing the equation because they're listening to a rhetoric that is also put out by the same people that you're discussing.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have created the talking points, and they have created the language that we subscribe to also. And some terminologies that we use were created for us to use. And this is why my ultimately, when it comes to this, it is individual. And in each interaction between a man and a woman, which when you're and I'm just using that as the salt, that's what I know.
Right.
Or whoever partners, you are marrying a masculine and feminine in you, is merging with a masculine and feminine in the other person. And you all have to come to your terms of what balance is. Balance is not a set thing, it is what is balance for those two individuals. And I think that is the magic of being able to marry those energies of what I value matches up with what you value in some type of way. What I need emotionally matches up with what you need emotionally, some type of way. I'm able to communicate. And a lot of this is learning. There's no magical thing where you just meet this person. It's just, oh, everything it's a learning process to become the emperor. It's a learning process to become the empress. You earn this. It is not given to you. You're born with your gender or whatever. You earn the position of emperor or empress. And a lot of, for a man in general, we learn how to love from a woman who really understands what love is, you know, and it's hard to do that because it takes a certain maturity to have the comfort to release, to get to the point where you release your ego enough and die into her program in order to become what you can be, because she needs you to do that to push her to out there to have her own identity, because she's y'all are feeding each other um unbeknownst sometimes to each other at the beginning. And what I'm talking about is not from theory, it is from experience. You know, having to be humbled, you know, I used to make more money, now I make way less and I have to accept this role, and because you having to learn how to work towards the betterment of the empire. And go ahead, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. I feel like that is the premise of the lesson. They are teaching each other. Iron sharpens iron. But I will also say, and like I said in the beginning, like today's my 17-year anniversary in my relationship presently. And prior to that, the relationship that I had before that, I was in a relationship for 14 years until he passed away. So I know what the death do you part really entails. Okay. And like all the underbelly of it. Okay. And I will say this, people have it fucked up. It is not 50-50. It is not 50-50. 50-50 is each of us having the ability to accept that one of us is going to be stronger in a particular area than the other and allowing them to lead. The emperor cannot be the emperor if he doesn't understand which areas he needs to let her lead. And the same thing goes for her, right? So, and those areas could change, like you said, changes in income or particular times in the span where the role has to evolve, right? And I think that the problem is that we have been indoctrinated to what we think the roles are supposed to be. And that is what is causing the conflict between the masculine and the feminine. I don't care if you're in a male or female vessel. And I don't care if, what your predilections may be. That's the problem, that they have indoctrinated us with a false narrative of what the goal is, not only in a relationship, but within oneself.
I could smoke a bag of that.
No, for real, right? But when you hear it, right? And if somebody didn't understand what I was saying, they might say that I'm putting the Empress ahead, even though she is the creatrix. She does birth. She is the secret sauce, right? The Holy Spirit, right? Because she was the part that was written out, right? She's the secret sauce, right? But she knows. She's always known. She's not the one that's having the issue, right? Because think about it. She's always known to whisper in his ear. She doesn't need a megaphone. She always knew to whisper in his ear and let him lead, right? What we're trying to get at is, can you understand that sometimes I'm better at this area and let me be better at this area? And it doesn't take shit away from you. You still a fucking emperor. You get what I'm saying? And so that's that. But that same people that you were talking about are the same people that don't want to let that conversation happen, because it would undo their system.
And they're also fueling that conversation, because what they do is
backwardly. Yeah.
Yes, they fuel all conversations. But the key is they control how it's going to be had, and they will get on both sides and promote. That's always been my point of who's behind the scenes promoting the language and the way the conversations are carried out that create the idea of a division or a clash. My son said to me today, Daddy, the woman comes first. She has to, because she gives. So it's something innate in this child as a male child to already know that the feminine runs the show.
So she don't even really want to do that. She might be and you alluded to it. You said she's the seed, right? And he's the fertilizer. He fertilizes the seed, right? Mm-hmm. So, she's the one that puts the seed in the ground and nurtures it. She don't really want. That's why she's willing to whisper, because she don't even want all of the shine. She don't want to take away from his spotlight, right? But she also don't want to be written out. She fed up, yo. She's like, what? We ain't doing that shit. If we have to blow it up, we'll blow this shit up. But and that's what I meant about the pendulum has to kind of swing, because we're trying to get the conversation to be understood that the emperor, not the empress, the emperor needs to kind of get in touch with his inner empress so that he can create the reality that he wants. Because it's not the empress that's holding him back. It's not. It's that system. You get what I'm saying? Because it has him looking to meet markers that are not real. They're not real.
On that note, do you have any closing for the people?
Just to say that the one 3D advice that I would give to people in relationships, and I've already spoken about my longevity in relationships. And I don't apologize for being the empress and standing on my 10. Everybody who knows me knows that I speak what I speak with my full chest. But you have to understand that we are to take each other's strengths and be willing to swap and walk behind each other at different points. And if we do that, that is the real union, the real triangle, or the holy grail. And that's what I'll say about that.
I think that sums it up. It's individual.
So I hope you guys, yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. And like I said, we're still in the process, because I was telling them that we have started the podcast. We're still waiting for some things so they can be linked to all the profiles, but it's up and coming and we're getting there. So bear with us. I hope that you have appreciated this conversation and felt like it opened your eyes in some way. And although we have very different views, I think in a way they're very similar to each other. Maybe how we came to understand them are slightly different, but the core of it is quite the same.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that individually, in your own journey with your particular mate, always keep in mind that there is a greater force attempting to work against the reality that you too can bring about. And in all of your journeys or whatever, keep that in mind, because that, and the fact that you're building an empire, because that will help dictate when each person is supposed to lead, and it will ultimately help defend against this irregular, unnatural, inorganic threat, and to move you towards that realization of that empire. And so I thank everybody for tuning in. I've enjoyed the conversation. And do you want to give your handles where they can find you?
Lovelee Soul Empress on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Don't forget, I launched my 2 books that are like journal workbooks that you can work through the ascension or what might be preventing it. And you can find that at loveleesoulempress.com. And if you are interested, because I know for a fact that I teach tarot in a very different way because Spirit trained me, you'll find that on my website as well.
Yeah, and you can find me at 720 Astrology on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I'm available for private readings through my website, 720astrology.com. And I will be starting some classes very soon. On my website, it is called Sacred Teachings, and I was at first just going to do astrology, but we're just going to get into everything that I have to offer, including how to read your own birth chart. So stay tuned for that.
And guys, definitely go get a birth chart reading with 720 is very enlightening. Okay, I definitely recommend that.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So we'll see you next time. And thank you so much for tuning in. Wishing you light and love and blessings on blessings. Stay spiritually strapped, gang. Bye.
Peace.
I'm trying to. Okay. And over here. Bye, guys.